The great hall of Nexus Prime stretched beyond what most eyes could see. Crystal walls rose high into the darkness above, catching light from 1,000 different suns and throwing it back in colors that had no names. Representatives from across the galaxy filled the circular chamber, each sitting in chairs made from materials found on their home worlds. Some chairs were carved from living wood that still grew and changed. Others were shaped from metal that sang soft songs when the wind touched them. A few were made from energy itself, holding their occupants in warm, glowing light. But one chair sat empty. It was made from earth oak, dark brown wood that had been polished until it shone. Small designs were carved into its surface, leaves and branches that looked almost real. The humans had given it as a gift 37 years ago when they were first asked to join the Galactic Council. They said it represented their world, their forests, their connection to growing things. The chair had been empty ever since. Ambassador Kelthanis of the Vorthak Collective stood up slowly. His gray skin looked rough like stone, and his forearms moved in careful patterns as he spoke. The Vorthak were an old race, one of the first to join the Council over 1,000 years ago. They believed in order, in rules, in keeping everything in its proper place. Fellow representatives, he said, his voice carrying easily through the hall. Today marks our 500th gathering. For 500 cycles, we have worked together to bring peace and order to the galaxy. We have stopped wars before they could start. We have shared knowledge that has lifted countless worlds from darkness into light. We have built something greater than any single species could create alone. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. The insect-like Chitauri clicked their approval. The floating ethereals hummed in harmony. Even the proud Drakmor, who rarely agreed with anyone, nodded their massive heads. Kelthanis gestured toward the empty chair. But there is a shadow on our achievements. For 37 years, that seat has remained empty. The humans were invited to join us to take their place among the civilized races of the galaxy. They refused. They chose to remain alone in the darkness between stars rather than join our community of light. The murmuring grew louder. Some voices showed anger, others confusion. How could any species choose to remain outside the council? The galaxy was dangerous. There were pirates, wild storms in space, and worse things hiding in the dark corners between worlds. Only together could the races of the galaxy stay safe and grow strong. I propose, Kelthanis continued, that we remove this empty chair. The humans have made their choice clear. They want no part of our civilization. Why should we continue to save a place for those who have rejected everything we stand for? Many heads nodded. The chair did seem foolish now, a reminder of failure rather than hope. But before anyone could speak in support, a thin, trembling voice rose from the ethereal section. Wait. Elder Zephyra floated slowly toward the center of the chamber. She was ancient, even by ethereal standards. Her body was barely solid anymore, more like mist held together by will and memory. She had been at the first council meeting 1,000 years ago. She had seen species rise and fall, wars begin and end, and peace grow slowly across the stars. I remember, she said, her voice soft but somehow reaching every corner of the hall. I remember the last human who sat in that chair. The chamber grew quiet. Even the young representatives who had never seen a human leaned forward to listen. Her name was Sarah Chen, Zephyra continued. She was their ambassador for 3 years. She came to every meeting, listened to every debate, voted on every issue. She cared about worlds she had never seen, species she had never met. When the Corvani plague threatened to destroy half the outer rim, she convinced her people to share their medical knowledge freely. Thousands of lives were saved because of her. Zephyra's form flickered, but her voice remained strong. When she left, I asked her why. Why would humans turn their backs on the galaxy? Do you know what she told me? No one answered. The hall waited. She said, We are not turning our backs on the galaxy, Elder. We are going to explore it our own way. We will build our own path among the stars, and maybe someday you will see that path and understand why we chose it. Kelthanis shifted uncomfortably. That was 37 years ago, Elder. If the humans were going to build something worthwhile, surely we would have seen it by now. Our scouts report their worlds are cut off from galactic trade. They have no alliances, no treaties, no protection. They have chosen isolation and weakness, have they? Zephyra asked quietly. Before Kelthanis could answer, an alarm began to sound. The crystal walls flashed red, then blue, then red again. Security Chief Mordak, a massive Drakmor with scales like black armor, stood up quickly. His people were warriors, protectors of the Council's peace. "What is it?" demanded Kelthanis. Mordak's yellow eyes were fixed on a data display that had appeared in the air before him. Numbers and symbols flowed across it too fast for most to follow, but Mordak could read them, and what he saw made him frown. "Deep space sensors are picking up energy signatures," he said slowly, moving through the void. "Large ones. Pirates?" asked someone from the Chitauri delegation. "Merchants?" suggested a Corvani representative. Mordak shook his great head. "No, these signatures are unlike anything in our databases. The energy patterns, they should not be possible with any known technology." Elder Zephyra turned her ancient gaze toward the empty chair. Light from a dozen suns caught the polished wood and made it glow like it was alive. For just a moment, it almost looked like someone was sitting there, watching and waiting. "Perhaps," she said softly, "we are about to see that path Sarah Chen spoke of." The alarm continued to sound as the council erupted in voices. Representatives called out questions, theories, demands for action. But through it all, the empty chair sat silent and still, keeping its secrets. Far away in the darkness between stars, ships moved through space in ways that bent the rules of physics. They carried no council identification codes. They flew no recognized flags. They had been built by hands that had never asked permission to reach for the stars, and they were coming. Captain Marcus Rodriguez felt his ship shudder as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The stars appeared around him like old friends returning from a long journey. He had been flying between them for 15 years, carrying cargo, passengers, and sometimes just messages from one lonely world to another. The Wanderer's Dream was not the biggest ship or the fastest, but she was home. "Captain," called his pilot, Jenny Park, from her station near the front of the bridge. "I'm getting a distress signal. About 2 hours away at regular speed." Marcus stretched in his chair and looked at the display she had sent to his screen. Red letters spelled out words in a language he did not recognize, but the universal distress code was clear enough. "Someone was in trouble. Any idea who they are?" he asked. "Readings suggest it's not human," said Dr. Elena Vasquez, his ship's engineer and medic. She was young but brilliant, always eager to learn about new technology or meet new people. "Energy signatures match Council database records for the ethereal research vessels." Marcus nodded. "Set course, Jenny. Let's see what we can do to help." As they flew toward the distress signal, Marcus thought about the choice his people had made decades ago. The Galactic Council had offered humanity a place among the stars, but it came with rules, restrictions, and the need to ask permission for everything. Most humans had decided they preferred to make their own way. It was harder sometimes, but it was free. They found the alien ship drifting near a dead world, its hull torn open in several places. The vessel was beautiful, made of the same crystal material as Council stations, but smaller and more delicate. It had been built for research, not fighting. "Wanderer's Dream, this is research vessel Wisdom's Edge," came a voice over their communication system. The words were translated by their computer, but Marcus could hear the fear underneath the mechanical voice. "We are grateful for your response to our distress call." "This is Captain Rodriguez," Marcus replied. "What happened to you?" "Unknown attackers," the alien captain responded. "They came from dark space without warning. Our weapons could not harm them. Our shields failed quickly. We barely escaped." Marcus looked at his crew. Jenny was already preparing their shuttle for a rescue mission. Elena was gathering medical supplies and repair tools. His cargo specialist, Tom Chen, was checking what extra food and water they could spare. None of them had asked him what to do. They just saw people who needed help and started helping. "We'll dock with your ship and see what we can do," Marcus told the aliens. "Hang tight." The alien captain's name was Keeper Zilani, and she was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. She looked like a cross between a praying mantis and a bird, with long, thin arms and legs, bright green skin, and large eyes that seemed to hold all the wisdom of the universe. Her people were called the Keth Mori, and they spent their lives traveling the galaxy to study ancient ruins and forgotten civilizations. "Your ship," she said, watching Elena work on their broken engine systems. "It uses technology we do not understand. How do you repair damage so quickly?" Elena smiled as her tools seemed to dance around the alien machinery, fixing problems almost by themselves. "Nanomolecular fabricators," she explained. "Tiny machines that can build or rebuild almost anything at the atomic level. My grandmother helped develop them. But such technology should take decades to create, Silani said, her large eyes wide with amazement. The Council's greatest scientists have been working on similar projects for centuries. The Council asks for a lot of paperwork before trying new ideas, Jenny said with a laugh. We just build things and see if they work. As they worked, Zilani told them about her research. She and her crew had been studying ruins on the dead world below, trying to understand what had happened to the civilization that once lived there. They had found signs of a great war, fought against an enemy that consumed entire planets. The attackers who damaged our ship, she said quietly. They match some of the descriptions we found in the ruins. Machines that eat energy and grow stronger with each world they destroy. We thought they were just stories, warnings left by a dead race. But now they're real, Marcus finished. And they're out there hunting, Zilani nodded. We must warn the Council. These creatures, these devourers, they could destroy everything we have built. Tom Chen looked up from where he was helping repair their food systems. What about you? Your ship won't make it to Council space in this condition. We will manage, Zilani said, but her voice suggested she was not sure. Marcus made his decision. Elena, how long to get them running at full power? With our fabricators? 6 hours for basic repairs, maybe 12 for full restoration. Do it, Marcus ordered. Then he turned to Zilani. When you get back to the Council, tell them about the Devourers. But also tell them something else. What? The alien researcher asked. Tell them that humanity is out here. Tell them we've built more than they know. And we've built it without asking anyone's permission. We don't need their approval to help our neighbors or protect innocent people. As the Wanderer's dream worked to repair the Wisdom's Edge, word spread through the human networks. Independent captains, trading companies, and colonial governments all received the same message. Something dark was moving through space, destroying worlds and growing stronger. It was not officially their problem. The Council had not asked for help. Earth's government, what little existed, had made no statements, but that did not matter to people like Marcus Rodriguez. When someone needed help, humans helped. It was that simple. 12 hours later, the Wisdom's Edge flew away toward Council space, its hull gleaming like new crystal. Keeper Zilani carried with her not just a warning about the Devourers, but stories of humans who fixed alien ships without being asked, shared food without expecting payment, and offered protection without demanding anything in return. As Marcus watched the alien research vessel disappear into faster-than-light travel, he wondered what the Council would think when they learned that humanity had not just survived outside their civilization, but thrived. Soon they would find out, and Marcus suspected that the galaxy was about to become a much more interesting place. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of Haven Station and watched 3 million people go about their daily lives. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see the main market district where traders from dozens of human colonies bargained over everything, from rare metals to handmade sculptures. Children from different worlds chased each other through the public gardens, their laughter mixing with the sound of water fountains and growing plants. In the distance, construction crews worked on expanding the station's housing sections, always building, always growing. Haven was not the largest human station, but it was Elena's favorite. She had helped design its power systems 5 years ago, when she was fresh out of engineering school on New Colorado. Now she was the chief systems engineer, responsible for keeping all the impossible technology running that made life possible for so many people. The quantum tunnel to New Terra is stable, reported her assistant, Jamie Okafor, as he checked the displays showing connection status to other human settlements. Cargo shipments from the farming worlds are arriving on schedule. Elena nodded, still amazed that it worked at all. The quantum tunnel network had been humanity's greatest achievement since leaving Earth. Instead of relying on the Council's expensive and heavily regulated hyperspace routes, humans had built their own system. Ships could travel instantly between connected stations and worlds, but only if both ends agreed to keep the tunnel open. It required cooperation and trust rather than control and fees. Dr. Vasquez, came a voice from the communication system. This is Admiral Zhang Wei on the Defiance. We have a situation, Elena frowned. Zhang commanded the defense platform that protected Haven Station from pirates and other threats. He was calm, professional, and rarely called her unless something serious was happening. What is it, Admiral? Council inspection fleet just dropped out of hyperspace about an hour away. 3 heavy cruisers and a command ship. They're demanding to board Haven and conduct a survey of what they call unauthorized construction, in violation of galactic safety protocols. Elena felt her stomach drop. This was what everyone had been worried about for years. Eventually, the council would notice that humans had built more than just a few scattered colonies. Eventually, they would want to control it. "Are they threatening us?" she asked. "Not yet," Zhang replied. "But their commander seems very unhappy that we exist without their permission. They want to talk to whoever is in charge here." Elena almost laughed. "Did you explain that nobody's in charge?" "I tried. They did not understand. That was the problem with the council races. They could not imagine a civilization that worked without someone at the top, giving orders to everyone below. Human settlements elected coordinators and specialists like Elena to handle specific jobs, but no one person or group controlled everything. Decisions were made by whoever cared enough to make them and could convince others to help. "Put me through to their commander," Elena said. A few moments later, the image of a tall, thin alien appeared on her screen. It was a Vorthak, with gray stone-like skin and 4 arms that moved in precise, controlled patterns. The being's face showed clear disapproval. "I am Commander Thekvol of the Council Inspection Service," it said. "You will identify yourself and your authority over this installation." "I'm Dr. Elena Vasquez, Chief Systems Engineer for Haven Station," she replied politely. "I keep the lights on and the air flowing. What can I do for you?" "You can explain how this station exists without proper council authorization. Our records show no construction permits, no safety inspections, no environmental impact studies. This entire installation is illegal." Elena looked out at the children playing in the gardens, the families eating together in the restaurants, the artists creating new works in their studios. "Illegal according to who?" "According to galactic law." Thekvol's voice rose in frustration. "No structure this large can be built without council oversight. The safety risks alone." "Commander," Elena interrupted gently, "we're not members of the council. We never agreed to follow council law. We built Haven because 3 million people needed a place to live, work, and raise their families. Why would we need anyone's permission to help each other?" The alien stared at her as if she had said something impossible. "You cannot simply build whatever you want wherever you want. There must be order, regulations, proper procedures. Why?" The simple question seemed to break something in Thekvol's mind. He opened and closed his mouth several times before speaking. Because that is how civilization works." Elena smiled. "Maybe that's how your civilization works. Ours is different." Admiral Zhang's voice came through the communication system again. "Dr. Vasquez, you might want to come up to the observation lounge. The council ships are getting a good look at the quantum tunnel network." Elena said goodbye to the frustrated council commander and took the high-speed lift to the station's upper levels. Through the large windows, she could see the council ships in the distance, their hulls gleaming in the light from Haven's star. But she could also see something else that made her smile. Quantum tunnels were invisible to most sensors, but ships entering or leaving them created brief flashes of light. As she watched, dozens of those flashes appeared throughout the surrounding space. Human ships were arriving from every direction, some carrying cargo, others bringing passengers, a few just stopping by to say hello. "Admiral," she asked Zhang, who was standing nearby with his arms crossed, "how many human settlements are connected to the network now?" "Last count was just over 4,000, he replied. "Stations, colonies, mining operations, research outposts, trading posts, even some mobile fleets. The network grows every day." Elena could see the council ships turning to track each new arrival, their sensors working frantically to map what they were seeing. She imagined their computers trying to count the tunnels, estimate the population, calculate the resources flowing through what humans had built. They would discover that humanity had not just survived outside council space. They had thrived. Without permits or inspections or oversight, humans had created a civilization that spanned half the galaxy. They had built it one station at a time, one connection at a time, one act of cooperation at a time. Her communication system buzzed with an incoming message from Commander Thekvol. When she answered, the alien looked even more confused than before. "Dr. Vasquez," he said slowly, "our sensors indicate that your people have constructed thousands of installations across multiple star systems. How is this possible without central coordination?" "People see problems and fix them," Elena explained. "They see opportunities and take them. They see neighbors who need help and provide it. When someone has a good idea, they try it. If it works, others copy it. If it doesn't, they try something else. But who approves the plans? Who ensures compatibility? Who prevents conflicts? Elena looked out at Haven Station, where her own impossible technology kept millions of people safe and comfortable. We do. All of us, together. Thekavol stared at her for a long moment. This should not work. But it does, Elena said simply. And that's what scares you, isn't it? Before the council commander could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Not the gentle chimes that meant routine problems, but the harsh warning that meant real danger. Admiral Zhang was already moving toward his command post. What is it? Elena called after him. Long-range sensors picking up massive energy signatures moving toward the core worlds, he replied. Whatever destroyed that research ship Captain Rodriguez helped. I think it's heading for Council space. Elena felt the station shift around her as Zhang activated Haven's defenses. Throughout the quantum tunnel network, other stations and fleets would be receiving the same warning. Soon, humans across the galaxy would know that something dark was moving through the stars, threatening worlds full of innocent people. The Council would need help, and Elena knew that humans would provide it, whether they were asked or not, because that was what they did. It was what they had always done. The first world died on a Tuesday. Security Chief Mordak watched the reports flow across his screens in the Council's Emergency Command Center. Kepler 7 had been a peaceful farming world, home to 6 million Chitauri who grew the sweetest fruits in 3 sectors. Now it was a ball of dead rock orbiting an empty star. The Devourer machines had consumed everything. The planet's atmosphere, its oceans, its magnetic field, even the energy from its core. How long? Asked Ambassador Kelthanis, his forearms trembling as he stared at the data. 17 hours, Mordak replied, his voice heavy with the weight of impossible loss. From the first attack to complete consumption, 17 hours. The second world died on Wednesday, then 3 more on Thursday. By the weekend, 12 worlds had vanished from the galaxy, leaving only cold stones where civilizations had once thrived. The Council's response was everything wrong with their system wrapped up in one disaster. Military commanders needed approval from the Defense Committee before moving ships. The Defense Committee needed authorization from the full Council before declaring a state of emergency. The full Council needed to debate territorial boundaries, resource allocation, and command structures before taking any action. While they talked, worlds burned. Admiral Zhang Wei stood in the command center of the defense platform Defiance, watching the tactical displays show the spread of destruction. Each red dot was a world that no longer existed, billions of lives snuffed out by machines that fed on entire civilizations. Sir, called Lieutenant Park from the communication station, we're receiving the Council's official request for assistance. Zhang looked at the formal message that appeared on his screen. It was addressed to Earth government and asked for consideration of military cooperation in accordance with established protocols for non-member species assistance during galactic emergencies. Send the standard reply, Zhang told his communications officer. Earth appreciates the Council's invitation but must decline due to our non-aligned status. It was the same response Earth's tiny diplomatic corps had been giving for 37 years. Polite, official, and completely meaningless, because something else was already happening. Captain Marcus Rodriguez was loading refugees onto his ship when the call came in. The Devourer fleet had hit the edge of Council space, and millions of people were fleeing from worlds that would be consumed next. His cargo holds were packed with families who had lost everything except their lives. Marcus, came Dr. Elena Vasquez's voice through the quantum tunnel communication network. Are you seeing the tactical feeds? Hard to miss them, Marcus replied, helping an elderly ethereal find a place to rest among the other refugees. The pattern suggests they'll hit Nexus Prime within the week. The Council's fleets are 3 days away from their defensive positions, Elena continued. Their bureaucrats are still arguing about chain of command. Marcus could hear the frustration in her voice. It was the same frustration felt by humans across the galaxy, as they watched the Council's civilization tear itself apart with committees and regulations while real people died. What do you think? He asked. I think, Elena said slowly, that a lot of good people are about to die unless someone does something stupid. Marcus smiled. I've been accused of doing stupid things before. Within hours, the human networks were buzzing with activity. Not official activity, There was no human government to make official decisions. Instead, it was the kind of activity that happened when people saw a problem and decided to fix it. Captain Rodriguez's merchant fleet transformed overnight into a refugee rescue operation. Trading ships, passenger liners, and even private yachts converged on threatened worlds to evacuate anyone who wanted to leave. They did not ask for payment or permits or authorization. They just came. Dr. Vasquez and her engineering teams began working around the clock to modify human technology for military use. Nanomolecular fabricators designed to repair ship hulls were redesigned to disassemble Devourer armor. Quantum tunnel generators meant for cargo transport were modified to teleport weapons directly inside enemy ships. Admiral Zhang's defense forces, supposedly protecting only human space, began launching hit-and-run attacks against Devourer scout groups. They used humanity's faster ships and unpredictable tactics to destroy the machines before they could send information back to the main fleet. None of it was coordinated by any central authority. Humans simply saw their neighbors in trouble and started helping. Individual captains made their own decisions about where to go and who to save. Engineers worked on whatever projects seemed most useful. Military commanders attacked whatever targets looked vulnerable. The Council watched in amazement as humans did in days what their own system could not accomplish in weeks. "How are they organizing this?" demanded Ambassador Kelthanis as reports flooded in of human ships appearing throughout Council space. "Who is giving them orders?" Elder Zephyra floated near the tactical display, her ancient form flickering with what might have been amusement. "Perhaps that is exactly the point, Ambassador. They are not waiting for orders. The breakthrough came when Elena's engineers discovered something interesting about Devourer technology. The machines were incredibly advanced, but they operated on a hive mind principle. They were designed to face enemies who fought like the Council, organized fleets with clear command, structures and predictable tactics. They were not designed to face an enemy that had no central command at all. Human ships attacked from every direction at once, using tactics that changed from moment to moment. When one group suffered losses, others immediately adapted without waiting for new orders. When a new weapon proved effective, the design specifications were shared instantly across the entire network. The Devourer's tactical computers, designed to predict and counter enemy strategies, could not keep up with an enemy that had no strategy beyond help whoever needs help and hurt whoever is hurting people. As the Devourer fleet approached the core worlds, they found themselves facing something they had never encountered in their millennia of conquering civilizations, an enemy that fought like chaos but worked like harmony. And for the first time since emerging from dark space, the machines began to lose. On Nexus Prime, the Council watched their displays show impossible readings. Human ships were everywhere, fighting alongside Council forces, protecting worlds they had no official connection to, saving people who were complete strangers. The empty chair sat silent in the Great Hall, but for the first time in 37 years, it felt less like an absence and more like a presence, as if someone invisible was sitting there, watching the galaxy's children learn to work together despite themselves. The real battle was still to come. But for the first time since the crisis began, hope was stronger than fear. The final battle began at dawn on Nexus Prime. The Devourer fleet emerged from dark space like a plague of metal locusts, thousands of ships that moved with perfect coordination toward the Council's homeworld. Each vessel was the size of a city, built from the consumed remains of dead civilizations. They had grown strong on a diet of entire worlds, and now they came to feast on the galaxy's heart. Admiral Zhang Wei watched from the bridge of his flagship Defiance as the Council's defensive fleets took their positions. The alien ships moved in perfect formation, their commanders following battle plans that had been debated and approved by committee. It was impressive, orderly, and completely predictable. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "human ships are beginning to arrive." Zhang smiled as his displays lit up with new contacts. They came from every direction, not as a single fleet, but as thousands of individual decisions made by people who had chosen to fight. There was Marcus Rodriguez in his converted merchant vessel, now armed with mining lasers powerful enough to cut through asteroid belts. Dr. Elena Vasquez arrived aboard Haven Station itself, the massive structure bristling with defensive weapons her engineers had built from spare parts and determination. But they were not alone. Farmers came in crop-dusting ships fitted with chemical sprayers full of hull-dissolving acid. Miners brought vessels designed to crack open asteroids, now targeting devourer armor instead of rock. Families from the outer colonies flew whatever they could find: passenger shuttles, cargo haulers, even private yachts with civilian-grade weapons bolted to their hulls. Ambassador Kelthanis watched the display from the council chamber and felt his mind struggle to process what he was seeing. "This is madness," he said.
"Civilians cannot fight machines that have destroyed entire battle fleets, can't they?"
asked Elder Zafira softly. The first engagement should have been a massacre. The Devourer machines moved in perfect synchronization, their weapon systems targeting the largest threats with mathematical precision. They focused on the Council's heavy cruisers and battleships, the obvious command vessels that any civilized military would use to coordinate their forces, but the humans were not fighting like a civilized military. Captain Rodriguez found himself flying alongside a Chitauri transport ship whose crew was using their cargo manipulator arms to grab Devourer fighters and crush them like insects. On his other side, a family of colonists had rigged their mining ship to spray superheated plasma in all directions, clearing space around larger vessels. There was no formation, no battle plan, no central command. Human ships darted between the Devourer machines like angry hornets, each pilot making their own decisions about where to strike and when to run. When one ship was destroyed, others immediately filled the gap without being told. When someone discovered that a particular weapon was effective, the information spread through the human network in seconds. Elena Vasquez coordinated the technical aspects of the battle from Haven Station's command center. Her nanomolecular fabricators were working at maximum speed, creating new weapons designs and modifications that were distributed instantly through quantum tunnel, links to every human ship in the battle. "The Devourers are adapting their tactics," Mishi reported to the network. "They're trying to predict our movements." "Then we change how we move," came the reply from Admiral Zhang. And they did. Human ships that had been attacking in small groups suddenly swarmed together in massive formations, overwhelming individual Devourer vessels with sheer numbers. Then, just as the machines adapted to this new pattern, the humans scattered again, each ship following its own path through the battle. It was chaos. It was impossible. It should not have worked, but it was working. The Devourer fleet, designed to consume organized civilizations, found itself fighting an enemy that was not organized at all. Their tactical computers tried to predict human behavior and failed because there was no central strategy to analyze. Every human ship was following its own judgment, its own compassion, its own determination to protect innocent people. The battle raged for hours. Ships from both sides filled the space around Nexus Prime with fire and light, but slowly and possibly the tide began to turn. "Devourer flagship is moving toward the planet," Zhang reported. "All remaining enemy vessels are converging on Nexus Prime itself." The final gambit. If the Devourers could not win the battle, they would consume the Council's homeworld and use its energy to rebuild their fleet. It was a strategy that had worked on 1,000 other worlds, but this time was different. Marcus Rodriguez looked at his ship's display and made a decision that would have horrified any military strategist. Instead of following proper tactical doctrine, he opened a communication channel to every human vessel in the system. "Anyone who can still fight," he said simply. "Follow me." They came from every corner of the battle. Damaged ships with failing weapon systems, cargo haulers that had already saved thousands of refugees, mining vessels whose crews should have fled hours ago, even civilian transports whose only weapons were improvised and desperate. They flew straight at the Devourer flagship, not as an organized formation but as a swarm of individuals united by a single, simple idea, that good people should protect each other from those who would do harm. The flagship's weapons cut through dozens of human ships, but there were always more. For every vessel destroyed, 2 more took its place. Elena's fabricators created new weapons faster than the Devourers could adapt to them. Zhang's military ships provided covering fire for the civilians. Rodriguez's merchants used their knowledge of trade routes to appear in unexpected places, and then something impossible happened. The Devourer flagship began to break apart. Not from weapons fire or structural failure, but because Elena's nanomolecular fabricators had found a way into its hull. Tiny machines designed to repair human ships were now rebuilding Devourer technology from the inside. converting the flagship's own armor into something harmless. How? Demanded Ambassador Kelthanis as he watched the greatest threat in galactic history dissolve like sugar in rain. Nanomolecular fabrication, Elder Zephyra explained with something that might have been pride. The humans built machines that can rebuild matter at the atomic level. They use them to help and heal and create. But in the hands of people defending their neighbors, the Devourer fleet collapsed like a house of cards. Without their flagship's coordination, the remaining machines found themselves facing an enemy they still could not understand or predict. One by one, they fell to weapons that should not exist, tactics that made no sense, and people who fought not because they were ordered to, but because they chose to. When the last Devourer ship went dark, the space around Nexus Prime fell silent except for the sound of rescue operations beginning immediately. Human ships that had been fighting for their lives moments before were already moving to help damaged Council vessels, sharing medical supplies, offering repairs, asking for nothing in return. In the Council chamber, Ambassador Kelthanis walked slowly toward the empty Earth chair. Captain Rodriguez materialized on the display screen, his face tired but peaceful. "Captain Rodriguez," Kelthanis said formally, "on behalf of the Galactic Council, I would like to offer humanity full membership in our organization. After what you have done today, that chair belongs to your people." Marcus looked at the ornate wooden seat, carved from earth oak and polished until it gleamed. He thought of all the humans who had fought and died to protect strangers. He thought of the civilization they had built without anyone's permission, the networks of cooperation that spanned the galaxy, the simple idea that people should help each other whenever they could. "I appreciate the offer," he said finally, "but I'm going to have to decline." "But why?" Kelthanis asked, genuinely confused. "You have proven yourselves worthy of joining the galaxy's greatest civilizations." Marcus smiled. "We already did that. We just did it our own way." As human ships began dispersing back to their 1,000 homes among the stars, the empty chair remained in the council chamber, but it no longer felt empty. It felt like a reminder that sometimes the best path forward was the one you made yourself, without asking anyone's permission or approval. The galaxy was safe. And it had been saved not by the greatest civilizations, but by people who understood that being great meant helping others become great too. The chair stayed vacant, but the path humanity had chosen among the stars shone brighter than ever,